I'm just so excited to be here and grateful for the opportunity.
Andrée, I was just filling Mynoo in. I didn't even realize you were a medical intuitive, and I think it would be great for you to introduce yourself. It's been how many years since we've seen each other? Maybe 5?
Yup, 5 years since we graduated. So, yeah.
So good to see you again.
Yes, my name is Andrée LeRoy. I am a medical doctor and a medical intuitive. And let's see what else. I trained at Harvard Medical School, taught there for 9 years, then moved to Los Angeles with this dream and purpose in my heart to start a wellness practice and transform healthcare from a sick model to a well model. I met Catherine at USM. I surprisingly got pregnant. I had a surgery many years ago and was told I could never have a child. So I'm the mom of a 5-year-old. So at some point you might hear her. She might interrupt a little. I apologize, but it's just the nature of it. And I recently contracted COVID-19. And I don't know if you want me to share more or just was that enough? Or
well, first of all, I just want to say, thank you so much for, allowing us to have this conversation with each other about this. And what an amazing combination, a medical doctor and a medical intuitive. Oh my God, I would want you as my doctor.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been, it's interesting. I got so much from the call we had on Thursday. And one of the things is like me not fully being seen in that way up until now. Yeah.
It's quite a blessing in so many ways. I mean, that's why I'm saying very soon we will be talking about the COVID pandemic will transform to a COVID phenomenon. Because so much has occurred. I mean, if you want to have the most blissful day, you just go 24/7 live cams around the world. Right now, it is live. It is here, happening in front of your eyes. We never take the time to even look at what's in front of us, let alone really experiencing the experience of different parts of the world. And it's amazing, Catherine and I talk about it's time for living an extraordinary life where all aspects of life coexist. And, especially the Andrée is quite whole and complete, so her whole family coexists anyway. But many times when I used to say this, the business people will say, oh yeah, okay, well, now I can be on a business call and there's a child in the background and it's okay.
I know, great.
Yeah, sorry about that.
No, don't be. It's life, right?
Yeah. And it's hard to find childcare when you've tested COVID positive. Yeah.
So tell us the story. I mean, when did it happen? What was it like when it was first communicated to you?
Yeah, so I basically, because my practice that I had developed, things were a little bit slow. I'm often asked if I want to cover for other doctors at the hospital. So, and it's something I feel very comfortable with. I went and covered starting March 6th through the 20th, and then I found out my colleague, I was only supposed to work for like a week, but then my colleague opted to self-quarantine. He had been out of town. So I continued my coverage, even though on the back of my head I was like, this is like a threat, because there was so much tension and it was like a heightened level of tension. So interestingly, I did this panel on letting go of fear around COVID-19. on Thursday, the 19th of March. On Friday, I noticed a tickle in my throat, and I was like exhausted. I was like, why am I so tired? And I was like, oh, it's probably just all of this that's going on, because I tend to absorb a lot of what's going on around me. And the following morning, Saturday morning, I woke up with a fever, muscle aches, headache like you could not believe. And then it was like my whole body just began to ache in a way I've had the flu before, but this was like on a whole nother level. I reached out to the hospital, like, what are your recommendations? They said, well, just stay at home. You know, I don't think it's necessary to get tested. Just stay at home, see what happens. And I knew what it was, but I didn't want it to be what it was. I wanted it to be the flu. I wanted it to be, oh, this is a cold or something else. I just didn't want it to be that, just because of all of this information that was occurring. So finally got a hold of a former colleague who I worked with in urgent care. And she was like, oh, our clinic is doing testing. You could do an over-the-phone appointment and go in. So it was drive-through testing, very easy. So that day I couldn't do a thing. My friend even offered to take me to the hospital, and I was like, I'm too weak to get dressed. But the following morning, I just got everything in me, got my daughter together, and we went for testing. I had to wait 3 days for the results. And during that time, I was just like holding and holding. I started taking every remedy I could, natural, antiviral medicine, everything that I could do, because I didn't want her to contract it. I tried wearing a mask in the house and not touching things, but that didn't go well. She's very affectionate. So then on Tuesday, I got the results. And Tuesday evening, I will not forget this. It was immediate shock. Then I went into shame. And then I went into like profound grief. I mean, I felt like it wasn't just my grief. I felt like it was grief from all around me. And I just started crying and crying and crying. It was like the tears just kept coming for hours and hours and hours. And then there was fear, and then moments of surrender. Like I was just like, I can't help it. If she gets it, I have to take care of her. I have to prepare her meals. I had tried to find like what, and my friend then shared with me that, well, you know, if you have to go in the hospital, she's been exposed to you, so she'll have to be admitted and quarantined on her own. And when that hit, it was like, so I was just, excuse me, I was like beside myself, praying. I reached out to friends to send me light, did everything I could. By that Thursday, I was having a lot of trouble breathing. And a lot of frustration with myself, because when I started working at the hospital, I was like, okay, so where are the masks? Where's our protective equipment? And they're like, then I got an email, like, you know, a few days in. I started on March 6th. March 8th, I got an email, oh, we'll fit you for a mask. I was all excited. I scheduled an appointment. I went down to the appointment. They were like, oh, no, we canceled that. We don't have the N95 masks. I was wearing a regular surgical mask. It tore on one side. Then I noticed the masks in the hospital were disappearing. They sent out a memo to us to say, well, we shouldn't be alarming the patients or creating more anxiety by wearing masks in the hospital. And this is coming from an administrator, but like I, the doctor, scientist, know, like, hello, this is an airborne virus. It's spread through droplets. Like, how can we not be? So there's a huge disconnect. And so a lot of that, I think, was weighing heavy in the grief. And then it was grief for healthcare. And like, I even thought about when I was a medical student, I was so excited. I was so excited. Like, wow, I'm going to get a chance to serve in a way that, like, I finally get to do this amazing thing and help so many people. And in that moment, I was just observing the reality of where healthcare is in comparison to the dream that I had. And I'm still like, it just makes me sad. You know, I know what is needed to keep us out of harm's way. I know treatment, I know science, I know my own inner knowing. And so when the situation is removed out of the hands of the people who know, and the decision makers around this are more concerned with the bottom line, my heart aches.
Yeah. Gosh.
So by Thursday, I had difficulty breathing. So I had it's called an oxygen monitor you can wear and see where your oxygen is. And it was dropping and dropping and dropping. And my girlfriend was like, Andrée, you need to go in. You know, if you're having trouble breathing, you need to go in. And I was like, I don't want to go in. So I stayed up pretty much most of the night just coughing and struggling to breathe. I did some of my daughter's breathing treatments. She has asthma. And when she would see me cry, she would cry. No, mommy, don't cry, which was hard. And then the next day, I just broke down and I called the pharmacy director at the hospital and I said, can you get me the experimental medicine? I need this medicine. Because I called a few pharmacies, a friend called, and they were like, no, we don't have it. And he said, they're stockpiling. Let me get you some. So on Friday, I took my first dose. You know, my oxygen was like in the 92, 94 range. 6 hours later, it turned around. So I was able to, my breathing got better. I'm still coughing, especially if I'm not talking and I'm laying down, I cough. Luckily, my daughter had minimal symptoms. She had a cough and then she had some body aches for one day, but I don't know if it's true. She just said, my body aches, and I don't know if she was just saying it because my body was aching. But, and then I'm now on day 20 from the day I developed symptoms. I'm still coughing and I'm still tired. And I still have body ache, like in my hips and my low back is where I feel it the most. But I'm grateful I didn't have to go into the hospital. She didn't get that sick. People sent me groceries. People held me in the light. Like, there's so many blessings in all of this, but I also, like, I feel like my career in the hospital is over, and I even contemplate whether my career in medicine is over.
You know, one of the gifts of the coronavirus is it's also starting to reveal stuff. You know, we in the spiritual intuitive world, we'd heard about the veils are lifting, and we took it in an energetic sense. But actually, you know, if there's a recording of one of my earlier sessions, which just like talks about my perspective on all of this. It is to be seen in conjunction with the energy of 2020, And where, the download I had was that all the elements will be brought forth in their full might to bring about the rebirthing of this planet, and in that process, in a loving way, enable humans to make choices so they uplift their own enlightened frequency. And the first one that was going to come in was fire, and it did. And then the second one was air, and I expected it to be tornadoes and stuff. And when the virus thing happened, it was like, okay, this is air. The air in its full might. Now, what it is doing is, it's like literally like when you have autumn leaves and you use a leaf blower, to blow the leaves because there's so many of them. It is a little bit like that on the planet. Like, there is all the energetic veils, but there is also so many other systems and structures and beliefs and all those things, which also have become veils where, we don't necessarily see them, but actually even we have bought into many of these beliefs, right? So it's like this leaf blower is literally blowing stuff out for stuff to be revealed for everyone to see, which was your experience. Medicine by itself, your training as a doctor is solid. Its foundation is solid. The dedication is profound and powerful. The Hippocratic Oath is good, and yet the system is the one that took the joy away from it, but it's like throwing the baby out of the bathwater, Andrée. If you just say, my belief even in medicine is shaken. It is shaken right now just because, the air is still blowing stuff off. What will happen is, everything has an originating intent. Every profession has an originating intent too. We have an originating intent. So originating intent of people studying medicine, and becoming a doctor is in service. So what is happening is, like literally with this whole COVID phenomenon that is happening across the planet, it is providing us an opportunity to return to originating intent. Professions that will survive will return to their originating intent.
Okay.
And this will happen now, even with medicine, because you're not the only one. I mean, I'm hearing such stories, and I'm not talking about you as the patient of COVID. I'm talking about you as the doctor who went in to help and to find that you didn't have the basic protection that we are now asking everybody to have.
Yeah.
And then this whole piece about, you're going to panic the patients. This is a dialogue that I have heard from two of my contacts who are in different hospitals in England, where, in the emergency ward, where they take patients in, they're like dressed like chemical warfare. And then when you come into the hospital inside, nurses and doctors are literally sitting around chatting. The wards aren't that full yet, but literally they don't have the stuff, the basic protection.
Yeah.
And like, it's no big deal. Well, it is a big deal.
It's a huge deal, and I think that's where I'm struggling, is like taking ownership and responsibility that, as a covering physician, should I have demanded this, and should I have made more of a stink about it? And then there's the other side, which is like, well, maybe my soul really chose to have this experience so that I could help others in a new way. And also this premonition. I've had this premonition going on for at least 6 months that our healthcare system is going to collapse.
Yeah. And there's so much of the beauty of this phenomenon that we are all in the midst of is that, what I say, that given that the air element is out in its full might and the 2020 energies are so rapid and so rampant that things multiply, the amplification effect is so fast, it's calling each one of us to be in a lightness of being. So anything that is heavy, is literally being either dismantled or certainly broken up into its individual pieces. And those pieces that will survive will be the ones that really have that lightness of being about them. So, it is a blessing in itself. And I'm just, really, I don't even want to say sorry, because I know this is such a gift for you to understand that your gift and your blessing really is that of a medical intuitive. Having studied medicine brings the gravitas and therefore a trust from the non-believers, for you, so that they can, they can relate to you, I guess, in terms of their own reality. But really what is going to emerge more and more is, the medical intuitive, or those who are into integrating different modalities, are the ones that are going to rise at this time. So, yeah, you having gone through it yourself, you having seen, your journey to actually contracting it is equally interesting as your journey of recovering from it. Right? There's so much to see in what led you to contract it in the first place, in terms of the system itself. And then also it's very encouraging, Andrée, to understand that even though your symptoms were so severe, you were able to be at home. Yeah. And okay, you're still on the pathway to recovery. You have your antibodies now in there. You could still be with your daughter. You could still have a support system, and you weren't ostracized being at home. All of those things were very plausible, I mean. Yeah. And it brought a trust in you as well, didn't it? Like, that it is going to, this too shall pass, and your daughter was such a phenomenal angel. At some point she would have been like your motivator for, you're going to get past this. And look at her, she had asthma. You had access to that medication to support you during the worst times.
That's true. Very true. But there's a part of me that's like, well, I wish my intuitive wellness practice would take off, because up until now it hasn't. It's felt like struggle. It's felt like, what do I need to do to get clients, and how do I, like, there's been all this, it's like my belief system too, like, oh, I'm a single mom, I have to provide, her dad's not involved at all, I have to provide for her, so let me go do this work that doesn't necessarily feel aligned anymore, just so I can, like, live my dream, which is not, it's my dream and I feel fulfilled doing it, but I don't feel like I'm not getting the financial support from that.
One thing that this situation is also doing is, and there are several people that are experiencing it in their own way. It's like if you have your foot on two cams, you can imagine the air element is in its full might. You have your foot on two cams, it is very unstable.
Yes.
Right? So it's almost like you are about wellness.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And you're a medical doctor, you're about wellness. And your proposition is wellness delivered. as opposed to I'm a medical intuitive and I'm a doctor. Well, you are a wellness therapist and you are a medical doctor. So that in itself sets you apart from other wellness therapists.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, it does. You would think so, but for whatever reason, and
well, I think Andrée, it's really been you having your foot on two cans. Like
Okay.
keeping the medical doctor piece going in the way it was.
Yeah.
Right? As opposed to coming at it from, okay, I'm about making you well. And, I'm a doctor, so I'll tap into that. And I'm also an intuitive, I'll tap into that. And now I'm a COVID survivor, so I'll tap into that.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
So, I've got you now have all this treasure trove as well as qualification with which you can now communicate with the world.
Yes. And up until now, it just hasn't happened, and I feel how that spread between the worlds is part of what depleted my energy so much so that I wasn't in the healthiest space when this happened.
Yeah. So, Andrée, the work that we did on Thursday, which is about putting the past in the past.
Uh-huh.
So just literally the way it has happened in the past, it's already in the past.
Okay.
Right? You can't even see it anymore. So you're going to now, this is the other piece the COVID phenomenon enables. It enables us to actually create something which is coming from where we are right now.
Okay, so I'm leaving the past in the past. I really got the corona and the crown and the majesty. And then the cough and the truth. And thinking about, well, what am I not like?
So literally now choose to stand in one place as opposed to a foot in two cans.
Okay.
Right? Even if you return to hospital, you're returning to hospital on your terms.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Using your intuitive capacity with your training, if you were to do that.
Yeah.
But really coming from that space. And so the key thing is just stand in one place, and that will give you the solidity and the foundation. And then, just like literally just imagine as if you're standing in one place, and you can even, put your hands down on both sides, fingers, palm facing forward, fingers facing down, and just see all the roots of all your experiences just anchoring themselves on the earth. And remember what I said, earth is all about supporting us. Mm-hmm. And the sky is about trust.
Yeah.
So you can imagine when you communicate to anyone, they'll feel that supportedness because that's where your roots are. Mm-hmm. And they'll experience the trust because you've gone through this journey, and you're coming out the other side of it, and you didn't rush to the hospital despite the very strong symptoms.
Yeah.
There was a trust, there was an inner knowing, there was an unconditional acceptance of what is.
And sometimes, though, shame comes up, and I have to, if I am supposed to be, or if I'm stepping forward, wanting to hold for others, like wellness and optimal health, and like a feeling of like I've fallen short of that,
Yeah. And again, Andre, that was in the past. You had fallen short because you were like split. You were conflicted so much. Like I talk about, fear is the biggest contagion. Conflict follows very close.
Okay.
When we
Yeah.
feel conflicted within, we are not whole and complete. Every organ in our body is somehow coping and reacting and trying to do the best. And when there's conflict outside of us, and there was so much of it outside of us, it was even affecting nature. Nature is such a reflection,
Yeah.
And look at it now. I mean, it's reclaiming itself left, right, and center. All those accords, Paris Accord, and this and that, well, all it took was just a few weeks of lockdown, semi implemented, for nature to start rising and reclaiming itself. We can reclaim ourselves too.
Yeah. Yeah. And in spite of this, I mean, I still have the cough and the fatigue, which I wonder, but in spite of all of this, there is a huge element of hope. And it gets twisted sometimes because I'm like, it'll all be worth it if I can help somebody who's going through it,
Yeah.
It won't be in vain unless, if I can somehow contribute. And like even last week, I was like, oh, let me do a plasma donation because I have antibodies. And I'm like, but I still have symptoms, so they can't take my plasma, which is a good thing. I mean, it's, you know what I mean? Like, it's.
Andre, right now, the biggest contribution that you can make is, like we are having this conversation, we are sharing this experience more in a holistic way.
Yeah.
It's not just physical, it's mental, it's emotional, it's spiritual, social, environmental, all of these little pieces that were not quite operating the way they should, and you were compromised even before you entered because you were internally conflicted.
Yeah.
You did not actually have fear. You were internally conflicted. That was your immunity diminisher, if you like.
Mm-hmm.
There are others who are fearful, and that is their immunity diminisher, And then this thing literally brought you fair and square into a space where you weren't conflicted anymore. You were going to look after your daughter, and you were going to recover from this.
Yeah.
Right? That was it. Conflict disappeared. You're in your center. You remained at home despite the strong symptoms, and you're literally towards that last piece coming out the other side. You already have antibodies. You already know that from an intuitive perspective.
Yeah.
So don't worry about going outside of you. Just focus on you right now. Get to 100%, and like this conversation itself would be very useful, for certain people. This is not something that you plaster everywhere. That's not the best way of doing something like this. It's not about propaganda. It's really about what's real, And even if you were to just use social media to just share your real story, that would be pretty powerful in itself.
Yeah, I have been, and I've gotten some pretty tremendous responses.
If you were to think in hindsight, Andrée, and if you were to just look at where you were, is there anything you could have done to avoid it?
Oh, yeah. Well, I don't know. Maybe this was my spiritual curriculum, my karma, so to speak, but I do feel as though had I made the inner decision that like, okay, 7 days of this is enough, or had I made better choices around the business team that was supporting me in getting my practice going. It wasn't aligned. They don't have a spiritual background. They're great people and great business people, but they're just not aligned fully with the intention that I want to bring forward. And sometimes I overlook the truth about these things, because I don't like the conflict. I would rather sit with the conflict within myself than voice, like, what's not working. Yeah.
Right. And, if you were to just look at, in that moment when you understood that you were positive, what, if you were to go back to that time and advise yourself on how you could take that news in such a way that you felt more empowered, what would you say to yourself?
I would say to myself, be tender, be gentle, be kind. Treat yourself with the same loving that you do with the patients that you're caring for. And allow yourself the time. And this is really happening for you to receive on so many levels. Receive divine guidance, receive grace, receive support.
Yeah.
And I would have advocated maybe a little more for myself and said, I guess that's the part maybe, and the past is the past, and I'm moving forward. But yeah, it's like the little girl inside doesn't want to get in trouble. So she just goes along, even if it's at her own detriment. So I probably would have just told her, it's okay to share and speak up and ask for what you need.
Yeah. Anything that comes to you that you can offer as guidance and advice to those that are just dealing with the situation and that haven't necessarily got symptoms as such, but are like preventive care?
Oh, absolutely. One of the things I did that I think was really powerful too is I talked to myself every single day. I said, oh, beautiful immune system, thank you so much for cooperating. Thank you guys for collaborating and working so harmoniously. And I was not at all coronavirus, I'm fighting you. No, it was more like, I'm accepting you. I'm happy to have you here for now. And I am feel free to release from my body when you are ready. I just invited it to be cleared and released from my body. And I prayed and I flooded myself with light. And, I mean, nutritionally, there were many things I did, you know, especially in damp weather, broths, soups, foods that nurture you, supplementation with vitamin D, zinc. I did the whole steams with the turmeric and the garlic and the ginger. Like, I was ready, willing, and able to do whatever was needed to support my body in the process. And I do feel like it is this virus and there's so many theories about the cytokine storm and like hemoglobin, and is it really an oxygen issue as opposed to an immunity issue? But it really requires, I feel, a multi-dimensional approach. Healing cannot just be looked at and explored from the physicality, from the physical level, from the medication and this and that. No, this is definitely an invitation for us to look at mindset, spirituality, mind-body connection, belief system, expression. Like, I felt compelled to be able to express the grief and let it out. Because I felt like if I kept it in, it was gonna like just stay there, you know, like stay in my lungs and stay in my body. And we are holo energetic beings.
Yes.
Oh, sending me light, you know, let me be open to receive it. You know, opening myself up to receive from others. And being in this space of knowing that, like, it's not just, like, I don't have to just play a passive role in this process. I can be very active in the process, even when I'm feeling weak.
Yes. Wow. So there's a really big part of the allowing, you know, like I talk about, this is a mega boot camp of allowing. And that is what started occurring. Once you unconditionally accepted what is, the allowing started blossoming. You know, and then you started receiving and accepting, including your daughter coming in, you know, sharing her affection with you.
Yeah.
You know? Because if you'd been fearful, you would have just planted fear in her field, and that wouldn't have helped anything.
Yeah, she was very comforting. And I actually was proud, like, oh, she's hearing what I share, you know. She's taking it in and using it, you know, because she would come rub my back. She would say, it's okay, mommy. It's going to be okay. And she even encouraged me. We had a classmate who sent me this. It's this silly song, but it's like, my white blood cells are healthy and they're learning to protect me. So she would remind me, like, Mama, you got to sing your song. I'd be like, oh, yeah, let's sing it. Come on. Yeah. And we've grown really close. Like, I really went back to work quickly after I had her. And I feel like this time we've really had this opportunity to bond in a way that I would have never had.
Yeah. Yeah, I was going to say, if you were to share with us any particular habits that you had or any particular beliefs that you had before you got into it that you now see were dysfunctional that you have just released, you know, are there some like that you would like to share? Because many others will have those as well.
Yes, absolutely. I was wearing the crown of woe is me, single mom, I got to do this all by myself, and life is unfair and I have this chip on my shoulder and people are selfish, especially in LA. They're just selfish. I would be like, you know, especially I'd walk down the street with my daughter and like, and I'd sometimes like house sit this dog, and so people would always want to rush up to the dog and not like interact with the people, and I'm like, and they don't like kids, they only like pets, you know. That was my whole story. And I mean, the people who came forward to help me, to cook for me, to like do whatever they could to help me. I know I am loved. I know I am supported beyond anything I could have ever imagined. And we love each other. You know, they just want to know how they can serve. They just want to know what can they do. And there's an unlimited supply of that that I did not think before this was available to me.
Yeah. I mean, it's such a wonderful realization, and it really does connect to the allowing, right? Because you never allowed it before. You know, the allowing was only evidence that proved what you believed in. So you saw more of that behavior. When you just literally went into unconditional acceptance and allowed whatever it is that showed up, you were ready to receive. And from within Los Angeles, angels emerged.
Yes. And it wasn't the angels I expected, you know.
Yeah.
I had two cousins in town, but I think they were really afraid, you know. And they're both physicians. It's so funny. But they were terrified.
Right.
You know, but I think for all these people, like out of nowhere, and it's like that whole thing, like my cup runneth over. Like my cup was running over. There was so much coming that like I didn't even have enough space to receive it all, you know? My fridge was packed. It's like more packed than it's ever been.
Amazing. Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. You know, and this is the other message, if you recall from last time, I was saying, you know, it's time for us to receive at a cellular level.
Yeah.
You know, and once you've received it, then share from there rather than be out there sharing, you know, and this COVID phenomenon calls us to be within ourselves first. So, you know, it's amazing. Wow. The generosity of human spirit. I mean, all those words you talked about, kindness, were being brought and displayed to you.
Yes. And my daughter, people were like, oh, I'll read her a bedtime story over Zoom. Or I'll just interact with, I had some lady, I would have never thought of this, but she played Candyland with my daughter over Zoom. She was like, yeah, or just like, it was incredible. Yeah.
It's as if you were just placed in this wonderful container of love and compassion, you know, and a stand that you're going to emerge from this.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah. I definitely feel that. Yeah.
I think the other piece that you talked about, which is so powerful, is rather than fighting it, with this, you know, you actually work with it. You know, and that gave the freedom for your immune system to recalibrate.
Yes, because I realized, you know, immune issues have to do with againstness, like you said.
Yeah.
And there was a part of me that felt the need to like put on this armor to go into, you know, a hospital versus being in a more like heart-centered, heartfelt place to go into my own practice. So there was this like duality, and autoimmune issues are duality with self.
Yes, totally.
Immune issues they're duality issues, and so for me, and I know some people look at it different. They feel like I'm gonna fight this, and but for me, it was cooperation, surrender, allowing, that I felt was very intuitively, I felt was very crucial to my recovery process.
Yeah. Did you at any point go into why me? Why is it happening with me?
Oh, yeah. Several times, including this morning. Like, why? Like, why couldn't it be, some of the people I work with, and even that's a belief system I'm wanting to work with to clear. Like, does it have to be hard to be worth it? Does it have to be a struggle? Like, I've seen this in other areas of my life, like struggle and then result and struggle. Like, can I live with more ease? Can I allow myself to go through experiences with more grace, And so there is a part of me that still wonders about that part, But why not me,
Yeah.
Like, I see the other side too. Like, why not me?
Yeah.
This is great. I can help people. And I have a very integrated belief system. And so I feel like a bridge. Like, I can meet people where they are,
Yeah. Wow. It really is bringing out like a beautiful intimacy with ourselves.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's taken social distancing for us to come home to us.
And a really, yeah.
So yeah, why not me? Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And like, even in the little bit of sharing I've done on social media, people feel comfort. Like, oh, I know somebody who's been through this and
Yeah.
it's seen through. I know somebody who's been through this, and so I can now take it more seriously. I know somebody who's been through this and it's come out. I mean, I get into my victimization occasionally, but it's not like where I live,
Yes. Yes. That's just a part of, being human, It allows people to also relate to you. So if you were to share with people that are watching or listening to you, your big lessons that you have gotten out of this. And I love to look at lessons, Andrée, in a full spectrum way. So there'll be lessons that you would have gotten in terms of physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, socially, and environmentally. So it would be great if you can just think about those different categories and share what lessons you have learned that others can take note of.
Okay, right now, right?
Yeah?
Yes. Okay, so physically, I learned the lesson was I'm the best giver from a place of overflow. And if I can tune in to when I am feeling and experiencing depletion and follow that as my guidepost, I will be in a better space. Mentally, really choosing and minding my thoughts through this whole process.
Right.
And choosing to see myself and talk to myself and hold in my mind a space of cooperation, collaboration, I think made a world of difference in my healing process. Spiritually, mentally, emotionally, allowing myself to grieve, allowing myself to feel whatever I was feeling and not sweep it under the rug, but allow it to be what it was, allowed me to move through that and get to a place of acceptance. And I really believe that when we do that, the healing process becomes accelerated. If we can move into acceptance of what it is, it accelerates, or it releases any resistance that may serve as a barrier to the healing process. Spiritually, I'm sorry.
Spiritually, yes.
Spiritually, there were many lessons. My own divinity, letting go of the misbeliefs, allowing myself to open up and receive in a way that I've never received before, and surrender in the process. I experienced the energy of being held in such a beautiful space all around me, even though I wasn't in physical contact with anyone other than my daughter.
Yeah.
And the nurse I saw in the drive-through urgent care, I could feel the support and the healing and the energy coming to me through this whole process. And then also connecting with my own divinity and receiving from the Creator in a way I had never received before. A slowing down, a real just sacred time. It felt like time was somewhat suspended, of just receiving from all directions. Yeah. Environmental.
Socially.
Socially. Socially, I feel closer to people than I've ever felt before. And I feel more aligned with who I'm meant to be aligned with. I feel more connected. This restored my faith in humanity. This allowed me to let go of all of these judgments that I had created about people and situations, and come into a space of like finding our connection with one another. And feeling very connected in a very deep way to people that I didn't feel as connected to when I was in actual physical contact with.
Yeah.
Environmentally, the quiet is, for me, it's very healing. And in addition, I would say realizing that we are, we are holo energetic beings, and our life force, our energy has influence and impact on everyone around us. And this is a time of healing for the planet. This is a time of stillness and just going within. Yeah.
Great. And if I was to ask you, based on your experience so far, if you were to say, share a few don'ts that you would like to, share with people, what would those don'ts be?
Panic will not support you in this situation. It will actually make things worse. And if you're moving into that space of panic, call upon your circle, whomever or whatever grounds you. Because the panic can cause more difficulty with the air hunger, breathing, etc. It is okay if you get this. It's not to be utilized as any way of blame or shame of yourself. It is an experience, and the more cooperation, acceptance, and collaboration one can bring to the experience will surmount any suffering. I honestly don't feel like I really suffered through the experience. Yeah, there were uncomfortable times, but it wasn't a sense of suffering. And so really, and staying with that intention and staying with the mindset and staying with it all throughout the whole experience, really, I feel supported me in getting through this. And the other thing is, don't refuse support. Even if it doesn't look like the way you thought it should look, or doesn't come from the place you thought it should come from, support, whether you have this or not during this time, it is so important. It is so important to keeping me in the light, keeping me in that space. So when I falter, when I fumble, when I go to a lower place, I have people around me that are lifting me, that are encouraging me, that are just supporting me. Yeah.
That's great. And are there any particular practices that you would like to share that people can integrate, to boost their immune system? And if for any reason they're experiencing symptoms, to then get out of, get over these symptoms? Any very practical practices?
Yeah. So I have a quick spiritual practice in the morning of 10 minutes of meditation, setting an intention. And my intention during that time was to be able to be open and receptive to healing and flooding my cells with light. The other things that I did is a lot of gratitude. So at night, my daughter and I have this ritual where we just go through together what we're thankful for and grateful for. The other things that I think are important are sun. It's interesting, during the Spanish flu, they used to carry patients outside of the hospitals into the sun, let them lay in the sun because the UV rays actually killed the virus. Making sure you're getting your supplementation, you're eating well, avoid sugar as much as you can. If you can sleep better, that's great for your immune system. Those natural killer cells, which are your first line of defense, work best when we sleep well, when we rest well. And then for mindset, anything that brings you to a state of peace, of joy, of tranquility, incorporating a part into your day. We started having dance parties, my daughter and I. We would just put on a song or two and just dance. So, yeah.
I think you shared earlier about, talking to your immune system.
Oh, yes. I'm now talking to myself all the time. And I think it's really important because it brings you into the energy of cooperation and collaboration, and that's what's required. When we are stressed, when we are in fear, when we are in anxiety, our cells become selfish. They don't talk to each other as much. They don't send the cascade of events that needs to happen to mobilize the cells that are needed for this as quickly. So if we can talk to them and share with them and express our gratitude to them for helping us, for mobilizing, for collaborating, for, clearing and cleansing our bodies, it can be a really powerful tool in the healing process. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's it's really great. That gets rid of that internal conflict. And if you were actually talking to the leaders, our political leaders, and leaders of institutions and organizations, based on the experience and the journey that you have been through, and the coming together of you as a medical doctor and a medical intuitive, what's the message that you would like to share with them?
I would like to share first and foremost, support, acknowledge, and empower those who have the expertise in the area that needs support. Look to the scientists, empower the doctors who know what is necessary, the nurses, the health professionals who are there in your system, empower them to have what's necessary and do what's necessary to clear the coronavirus. The other thing is we are on the brink, we are on the precipice of a major transformation in healthcare. Moving from solely a model that is based in pathology, sick care, and germ cell theory to one that, as you said, looks at the whole being, socially, environmentally, spiritually, mentally, physically, emotionally. And now is time to create that model. And I encourage us all to work collaboratively in creating this new way of delivering care that supports, that uplifts, that transforms not only the physical being, but the emotional, the spiritual, the consciousness of individuals and that of the planet.
Thank you. And the final piece would be, like you said, we are right in the middle of a huge transformation that is happening planet-wide, and all the beings in it. And nature has already reclaimed itself. Other living beings are also, emerging, and we're seeing peacocks and alligators and right in the middle of towns and stuff that is happening. And it's time for humans. Humans are also emerging in all of this. So we have an opportunity to actually anchor the design of a new world into being, right? So if I was to ask you, Andrée, your past is in the past, but you're enriched with the experiences of all your journeys that you've had up to now. What would you put in to the design of a new world into being that we are going to anchor? So we are all intuitives here. We're just going to anchor it even as you speak it. So let's go for it.
Yeah. Anchoring in the evolution of consciousness, anchoring in our divinity, anchoring in our support, in uplifting each other, and seeing the oneness of our divinity, seeing the oneness in humanity, seeing the oneness on this beautiful planet, and holding each other accountable to continued improvement, continued development, continued integrity. And that's beautiful. If you think about it, that's powerful.
Yes.
Yeah.
Aho.
Yes.
And since there are three of us here, we make a triangle, which is very solid and anchored in itself. So I'm going to invite Catherine. Catherine, you have the talking stick. If you were anchoring the design of a new world into being, what would you anchor right now?
Andrée, I loved your words. I love the idea of collaboration, coexisting with each other in a new way, with support that is unprecedented, that maybe we haven't really seen happen yet, and we're just experiencing it for the first time, where people come from all walks of life. It doesn't matter. The playing field is leveled, and we're all here, right? Game on. So I love the idea that we come together as one, truly as one. And I think people are experiencing that for the first time. And I just invite everyone to kind of show up and support not only everyone around themselves, but support themselves and really stand in their greatness. And that's what I am seeing you, Andrée, as you've gone through this, standing in your greatness. And I can't wait for the world to experience you in this new way of living.
Thank you.
Catherine, those are beautiful words, a great acknowledgement of Andrée, and it would be great for you to just go within yourself and see what is choosing to come through that you would like to anchor in the design of the new world. All of these things, absolutely. May they continue. What else?
The word for me is co-creation. Coexistence and co-creation. We are all amazing creators, but it's not just us creating independently. It's a new way. It's a new co-creative process. So my word would be co-creation.
Right. And in terms of what I'm seeing that I would like to anchor, really, acknowledging, receiving, and accepting and experiencing everything that you have shared, Andrée, and Catherine, you have shared, and in the context of the new world into being, I would like to anchor the return to the innate vibe of being human, and the human form experiencing its presence in its full strength and regalia, the human vibe being a vibe of love. I'm seeing this co-creation of collaborative coexistence showing up everywhere, showing up between heads of nation states and the people that are in that nation. The collaborative co-creation of coexistence in terms of different modalities of healing, different ways of doing business, different ways in which monetary systems operate currently on the planet. I'm seeing the anchoring of a generosity of spirit and a recognition of the spiritedness of everything that exists and the connection that we have. I'm also seeing an anchoring, a remembrance, a return to remembrance of the creator energy that exists within each one of us, knowing that we can create anything and everything. And when we co-create, it happens so much faster, with so much confidence that the job is done. I'm seeing a shift from people being interested, observing, judging, evaluating, to a shift where they are resolved about the highest way in which this planet is going to show up as we move forward, the highest vibe that they themselves can embody and bring forth. I'm seeing us arrive at a new vantage point as a result of this whole experience, from which we will be shown a new vista. And along the way, I also anchor us taking the time to notice, receive, and accept the evidence that is being shown of the beauty in the truth of everything. I'm seeing a natural acceptance of unconditional acceptance of what is. I'm seeing a comfort that people have in operating in an environment where you can't take anything for granted, where uncertainty is certain. And then the trust in that inner knowing becomes the norm, and that inner knowing is guided by all of their soul journeys, which gives people a very powerful anchor from which to emerge out into the world.
Wow.
Let's acknowledge, receive, accept, and experience all of this. Thank you, Andrée, for really giving us the opportunity to have this conversation.
Oh, thank you both so much. Yes, I feel like this conversation and our collaboration together has given me so much clarity on how to move forward. So thank you, and thank you both for your time.
That's so beautiful, Andrée. Andrée, I have a request. What I would like to do is to share this recording with my team, and for them it will be a voice only, for them to edit it, and then I would like to share it back with you to see if it's something that you're open to share with others. But there's so many different facets of learning in this conversation that have emerged. And I would say the biggest piece of this conversation is your complete lack of blame of anything. It's amazing. I mean, it's just, to me, you're emerging like a role model leader of, okay, it is what it is, and feeling what you feel as a human, not just becoming holier than thou about it, and going forward anyway.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, I would love to share this. And if it can help someone, if it can bring forward a new dimension in their perspective, if it can assist in any way, that's my intention. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Andrée. Thank you for taking the time. Really deeply appreciate you.
Yeah.
I deeply appreciate your daughter as well. Right?
Oh, yeah.
My God, what a guide and a warrior and an anchor and a comrade.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. Both of you operating in your magnificence.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Catherine, for making this happen. Deep gratitude.
Yeah, absolutely. There are no accidents in life, and I'm so blessed. Andrée, it's been a while that we reconnected. What a beautiful opportunity to come together with you. And Mynoo, thank you so much for spending the time and the energy and your love and just gifting us with this past hour together. I really appreciate you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you, Andrée. And, if you use WhatsApp, Catherine will connect us. Anytime you have any questions, anything you want to run past, or just have an intuitive, co-creation together, I'm there.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much. It's just been such a gift. This has been such a, I'm just open and receiving the gift of this conversation and the light of this conversation and your gifts. Thank you so much.
You're so welcome. It's my pleasure and my privilege. Thank you.
Love to you both. Oh my goodness. I'm so happy we've had this time together.
Yeah.
Thank you, Andrée.